Hello, friends. A very warm welcome in this second episode of picking up relevant questions, especially with respect to economics optional paper 2 on Ansarkari. And again, our goal is not to overly critique, but try to understand and also bring certain novel aspect, if possible, with the existing understanding and also ideas. So the first question says, examine the relevance of Gandhian vision of growth for India. So it is not questioning whether you understand Gandhian vision or not. It is asking that if you know Gandhian vision, please don't write about it, but write the relevance of it for growth of India. That means our mind must be very clear that what growth of India is actually for you or for any candidate, and at the same time how Gandhian vision is fitting into it. So let's see. Gandhian vision for growth of India was a balanced mix of socialistic and market-based economy. I think it's a good start. It was to be driven by rural agriculture based India, as he stated that 70% of India lives in villages. I think this is also fine. In first two paragraphs only, we could have brought also one fact that in Hind Swaraj, we find ideas of Gandhiji, where he is, where he is criticizing machine based industrialization. So, one fact we could have written. And secondly, his growth of India, as you rightly said, but then if I go for one more fact, then he believed in, rural cottage industry, some sort of that. I'm sure it is coming up also. So, Gandhian vision and relevance, because always remember when we are very confident about the answer, then we will never be using so many, there in one answer, you will never find certain keywords repeating. It is all about the structure and the confidence of the answer. Whenever we have little less confidence, you will always find, not in this case, I'm generally speaking, that there will be less repetition. So self-sufficient India, first 5-year plan focused on agriculture growth 1951 to 56. The model of import substitution was one of the pillars of growth for infant industries and make them strategically competitive. As a result, the Green Revolution of 1966 with the introduction of high-yielding varieties was a byproduct of Gandhi's vision. I think very beautifully you have correlated, not a problem. India became one of the largest producer of grains and cereals in short span, for example, wheat and rice, although monoculture became a challenge. Declining water aquifers, in particular in North Indian states of Haryana and Punjab. So I think with every point, like the way you brought in the third point, so in the fourth point also, you could have some way inserted, you could have said that, Gandhiji's vision believed in limited and self-sufficient growth rather than, going extensively for it. This much of liberty one can take up. Relevance can also be seen in the success of structural reforms of 1991 that could embrace it smoothly with economic buoyancy of GDP. So you are rightly in saying relevance, but then we have to bring Gandhiji's key word. For example, Sarvodaya. One word, Sarvodaya. Sarvodaya is a very, very important word, which is very much integral to Gandhiji's vision for India. And another key word is, as I said, that he was in a way anti-industrialization. So he believed in cottage industries, he believed in village self-sufficiency. Yes, one more keyword we could have brought here, that is Panchayati Raj institutions, their economic dimension. One line only, and I think answer becomes very smart and innovative. Though 70 to 75%, I would still say it is actually fulfilling the demand, and as our work is still in progress, so I'll go by the positive attribute of it. Agriculture still contributes to less than 20% of GDP, but employs half of the labor force. Therefore, Gandhiji's vision taught us enough for need, but not greed. So you are trying to put it into objectivity, but then that's fine. It will be. I'll be looking forward to your feedback once we finish. Explain the growth of domestic trade in pre-independence India. Now, this is a very, very data-based, or you can say a very clear, straight answer. Like the first one was tricky, but this is not tricky. This will depend upon how we have read, especially from 1947 to 1990. It is also domestic trade in pre-independence India. Not it is actually pre-1947. So pre-independence domestic trade was more intrastate than interstate due to transport limitations and consumption oriented, but the economy was self-sufficient until the arrival of British East India Company. Okay, fine, you have started even taking before British. So before being a colony, you are saying Northern Ganges Plain cultivated food grain, mostly rice and wheat, being non-durable consumption goods. It was not traded over large distances. Metal were traded iron, silver, gold. I think fabulously written, but we have to see when we see the syllabus of the pre-independence. So if our syllabus is defining that you start with British, Then our first introduction part, we have to see whether it is part of the syllabus or not. We will discuss it further. Otherwise, I think it is fair enough. After the British rule became, the nature of goods traded transformed to suit Britishers. Not fine, that is very true. They transformed it actually. There was a tectonic shift when we speak about there was dismantling of existing trade network and system, and a new system emerged post Plassey. That's what you can say. Before that, the tentacles were spread through the tool of tool of duty free trade, duty free dastaks. That's what one we give, dastak, and that duty free pass which was there for the East India Company. So commercialization of agriculture is a key point, very true. Indigo, tea, rubber, and precious stones. So this is one element. One side of the free trade imposed in India, British sold final goods in Indian market. So again, you are able to make sure that what the word is speaking about. Current account deficit shot up as a result, creating balance of payment crisis and a weak rupee. I like the point number 3. You could have written in bracket sterling versus rupee. Sterling rupee, that ratio is there. And then short period of profits for Indian exporters. For example, during American Civil War, cotton exports boomed. So rather than exporter, you can say Indian moneylenders and Indian traders. There is no as such exporter as a group, what we can say. So our vocabulary is also getting more streamlined than if we compare it with the first one. However, India could not see an export-led growth in pre-independence, but was left exploited and drained. I think good effort with the same existing level, with the same domain, you have tried to brought in more keywords, and it is shaping up. So let's see what more we can see. Indian vision was more traditional in nature and was geared towards establishment of Ram Rajya. As I just said, village and cottage industries, and Gandhiji believed in Ram Rajya, so that is fine. Revival of old self-sufficient India, that's fine. We are also trying to come up to this level. Driven by decentralized small sector industries, as I just said, this we also wanted to put in, and we have put it in some way. Specialize in production of labor intensive products, khadi, textile, apparel, and shoes. This is also more one layer down. He was against large scale capital intensive industry, that also we discussed. And provide vocational training, I also said it. It can relevance, it can help promote employment, and in the semi skilled sector enhance income. More concentrated in rural areas than consumption driven growth orientation. The capital output ratio will be low, with low gestation period, thus non-infectionary. So point number 3, I would really appreciate, which is again bringing a kind of an economic aspect. 1 or 2, that's fine. That is depending on person to person. Decentralized growth can promote regional imbalance. So again, a good try, good mindset. Self-sufficiency can be achieved without reliance on foreign aid. So again, this point is different. And issues, what are the issues with the Gandhian thought? Infrastructure growth was ignored, undermined, dynamic efficiency of industrial growth. Living standards will not be improving, so she has put in directly, but then we have also said it. Export oriented growth, you also said that it will not be so much. Remaining dependent on others for capital goods like steel. So more second layer of simplification is visible, so we will also be going for that. And limitation that Gandhian vision entailed make it unsuitable for adoption in the 21st century. That is driven by innovation. Thus, Mahalanobis plan was adopted. So we also put that, and but you went on to take a positive aspect of it. So I would not completely negate that idea. You try to link with it, but then if we go for the second layer of simplification, so 1 or 2 points in our answer could have been removed, and more element could have been inserted. If you move forward, please. Uh, Before advent of the British, organized trade structure was not present. So this is again a very, very direct attack. Market structure and various limitations which limited trade, plus backward communication and transportation network. People divided on informal structures like Banjara. So I really agree with this. That's why I said we have to see that our syllabus is, I believe, not talking about pre-British. From the British only, we have to we have to mold the answer. So first part we have to knowingly remove, and we have to bring certain thing. So domestic trade in British, let's see. So in transportation, she had the constraints of the trade were removed. How? Through transportation, communication, uniform weight and measurement. I think I like the point. Initiation of formal banking, law and order situation made more comfortable, uniform currency. The removal of constraint enabled the trade, introduction of railways. Then she is explaining regional specialization, the trade based on competitive advantage. Bombay is specialized in cotton, Bengal specialized in jute, and Bihar, especially indigo. I am 100% sure you're also aware of all these ideas very simply. It is not something new. Commercialization of agriculture, you also put it in the beginning. That is, again, I'm saying, like in the first session, what we did was trying to come up. In second session, we have little closed the gap, but then still one more layer is required of simplification, which is coming up. Money and credit was available. So you, as I said in the last interaction also, we have to keep in mind that economics wala jo perspective hai, the tools that you know, you have to bring that and you have to put a layer of it. So she did it. Impediments, finally she's also talking about flooding of British cheap manufactured goods. You also said it. Banking sector remained biased. We didn't speak about it. Infrastructure in market remained scanty, and differential train tariffs were reduced. So we also said it that it was biased towards India. Thus, results were mixed that constrained full potential growth, yet situation improved compared to pre-British times. So she also linked with the pre-British time, but she did not wasted much of energy in the first part, because that's what I was thinking that whether we required it or not. So I think my conclusion would be that it is a very tricky and a smart process. We are moving towards it, and because you have done it diligently, so I'm very sure you are understanding those gaps like electrons, and I think we can pull it off. It is not technically very superior to you, but it is definitely, as we had said in the first interaction also, this is our second one. We will continue on the same lines, that we have to be more simple, more clearer, and bringing some economic vocabulary. So I look forward to your viewpoint, please.
So my viewpoint is also same, that there are extra 1 or 2 points which can be added in my answers, and that second answer where I should have not discussed so much about the pre-British era thing. So I could have limited there, and in terms of vocabulary, I'm focusing, and I have to think a little bit more about the diversified areas like banking sector or the infrastructure sector that she
Means whatever you know casually about economics, let me share you one tip.
जी,
Whatever you know casually,
हम्म,
one more element I can find is that probably we are putting more effort than what is required. So
जी,
if we little become little laid back, so
हम्म,
probably we can bring more elements into it. So one learning we can get from the session is that we don't have to try too hard.
हाँ जी,
Then I think it is coming up faster,
हम्म,
because we don't have to try too hard, because the question will be innovative, question will be general, question will be broad.
जी सर,
So there are so many things from which examination will ask.
हाँ
They
जी,
are going to create question, because it is not something very concrete. It is an abstract thing.
हाँ जी, हाँ,
It is basically a kind of a discussion, a kind of a debate, and a kind of a what we can say, the kind of a conversation in the question, if you see.
जी,
So I expect in this year also there will be on the similar lines question will be there. They will be picking up one element of it, and we
जी,
have to very beautifully, without making it technical, just try to break it into different elements.
जी सर,
So thank you very much, and we'll see you in the next session. Keep working hard, smart, being relaxed, because that is the only long term or short term, whatever you think is the way. And I'm sure uh, ability to understand the situation and take it constructively, by the God's grace, always brings success. Thank you very much.